Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we'll be doing our three-way driving comparison between the all-new GMC Sierra AT4X, Ram TRX, and Ford Raptor. Now this is a two-part series, so if you haven't seen the walk-around comparison yet, I'd recommend going and watching that so you guys can see the winner of that comparison. And in today's video, obviously this will be all about driving, so we're going to pick a winner from a driving perspective. But as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about visibility before we set off here on the AT4X. You guys can see visibility over the hood with the heads-up display, and then both of the mirrors. Glove box still won't shut. And then throughout the rest of the rear, and well, let's set off. We're starting with the AT4X because this is the newcomer on the block, and I also want to see if I feel like I'm getting anything extra by jumping up in price to go for the Raptor or for the TRX. So we'll go from like least expensive to most expensive. So this Raptor and then TRX last. And I'm actually going to pop this into off-road mode, which I know might seem weird. We've got some train tracks coming up here, and we're gonna go over the train tracks at a relatively quick pace. And basically this is just to test out, you know, worst case scenario on road in terms of like a big bump or pothole or something, you know, how that would feel with the truck. And you know, off-road mode sets this at the best possible way to go over train tracks. Okay, so pretty good absorption. We'll see how the other two compare. You guys gotta remember, this has 33-inch tall tires. We're gonna pop back into the normal mode. Now right now I'm getting a massage, which feels fantastic. Also have the air conditioned seat on, which is definitely a plus when it is as hot as it is outside. Now, something that I'm noticing here is definitely a deficit with the axle ratio. And what I mean is this is a 3.23 axle ratio. And so there is definitely quite a bit of lag with the pedal from when you press it down to something happening. Now, obviously they make stuff like pedal commanders and everything that make it a little bit more responsive, but also, you know, this being an off-road truck and everything, I think a more aggressive axle ratio would have been the thing to do. But at the same time, this already gets pretty bad fuel economy in 14 around town, 18 on the highway. It's not horrible for a pickup truck, but it's not the greatest either. And so that would make it have even worse fuel economy, at least on the highway for sure, and in around town a little bit as well. And then aside from that, we'll get our full-blown acceleration so you guys can hear what it sounds like. Now, this being naturally aspirated is definitely at a deficit compared to the other two because the Raptor's turbocharged, which means it'll have less power loss at elevation here, and then the TRX is supercharged and it also has tons of power. And so yeah, we'll see how the other two feel, if they feel significantly quicker. I'll go over that in those videos. But anyways, you know, just driving around, this is very comfortable. Like this is a great daily driver truck. I will say that. Like it's smooth, it's comfortable. It's quiet here in the interior. Sound system's amazing, by the way. I have been listening to it, really top notch. I don't really have a favorite sound system out of all three now, to be honest. I mean, I'm not like a sound system type person, so just take that into account, but like I think they all sound pretty good. This has the cool camera mirror technology and everything, so like it's got all the good, you know, great daily driver tech. And so yeah, I feel like this solid daily driver. Tire noise isn't too bad either. It's got, you know, pretty aggressive off-road tires. You definitely have like this big king of the road feel. Now, something that people always talk about with you know, GMCs and then also with Chevys is how the hood is just massive and gets in the way. And yes, it is massive, but just put the seat up higher. If you're a tall person, you won't have to do that anyways, but like if you're shorter, just put the seat up higher. And then, you know, yeah, the hood is still pretty big and bulbous, and it's, you know, it's a pickup truck. It's not the easiest to see over, but when you put the hood up higher, it helps out. Let's see over these train tracks in normal mode. Okay, just to, you know, kind of remembering what happens, you know, in terms of the front and the rear and everything going over the train tracks. But yeah, I guess that we can, you know, sum things up here with this AT4X from a driving perspective on road. I will be taking this off road, so if you guys want to see how this performs off-road, then I definitely recommend subscribing. So as soon as I post that video, you guys can see that, and I will be talking about, you know, how this compares off-road. But On road, it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's quiet. The only thing that I guess I could really knock this truck for is, again, the acceleration at elevation, right? Might not feel, we'll see, might not feel as peppy as the other two, potentially. And then the seats are kind of hard. Like, I'm okay with it because I'm 24 years old. I'm just trying to put myself in the mindset of like someone who's like 40 to 60 years old that might be buying this truck. And I mean, it's not bad, but in the massaging seat function definitely kind of seals the deal a little bit. But at the same time, yeah, these definitely aren't, they aren't the softest seats. And they're also kind of narrow, almost, it feels like. Like, I'm not a huge person, but I feel like I'm sitting like on top of the bolsters rather than inside of them. And so, yeah, it's kind of, I love how they look, but I guess that's kind of a downside in terms of like the, you know, some of the feel of the seats. So overall, really nice driving truck. Now, obviously in the other two, we'll kind of see how they compare to this. I'm mostly gonna be focusing on the key differences because this video is mainly supposed to, you know, highlight, you know, should you go for the new AT4X or not, or should you pony up the extra money for the Raptor or the TRX. And so let's go to the Raptor. Now let's talk about visibility with the Raptor. You guys can see here over the hood, both of the mirrors, and throughout the rest of the rear. This has blind spot mounting just like the AT4X. Also, the AT4X glove box, it was just kind of like sticky with the button, and then I got it closed eventually. Anyways, let's set off. Starting off in the Raptor, something I like about the Raptor is it has a valved exhaust, so you can make it louder or quieter, which is nice. The other two don't have that. You guys heard the AT4X, it's pretty much just quiet all the time. It's not, that 6.2 is not really particularly loud, unless you add an aftermarket exhaust. And you guys will hear the TRX a little bit later. It is quite rambunctious. But this, you can have both. You can have the loud sound if you want, you can have the quiet sound. Now, with the Raptor, I don't have to put it in an off-road mode. I just have to put the dampers in off-road, and that'll basically be able to handle the train tracks for us, which is pretty cool that I can just do that. That's something that I think is definitely a benefit with the Raptor. We're gonna carry the same speed here at the Raptor. Body control does seem to be better with this truck compared to the AT4X. Ooh, that was a huge difference. So with the AT4X, you guys could probably kind of hear it, the difference on camera. Back end kind of does come unplanted slightly, and you feel the compression happening. This, on the other hand, it doesn't feel like anything's happening. It just absorbs all of it. Now again, this does have much bigger tires, and tires do act as like a second shock absorber. This has 37-inch tall tires versus the AT4X is 32.5-inch tall tires. So you do have to understand that. And there's benefits and downsides of both, right? Benefits to this is, you guys saw over the train tracks, like it was like nothing happened. And this also does the multi-link in the back, which also kind of adds to, you know, the feeling of nothing happening. But the downside of 37s is they do kind of track all over the place on the highway, but 35s will do that too, just because of the width, right? So you do have that difference, and obviously the fuel economy difference. Now this has a sport mode. The AT4X does not have a sport mode, and so this will actually be able to get a acceleration in sport mode. I know some people aren't super fond of the twin turbo V6, but I love the sound of it. But popping back into normal mode there, what you guys saw from an acceleration perspective is this definitely accelerates quicker than the AT4X. Again, you don't get as much power loss, and this just has more horsepower and more torque. But on top of that, I'm pretty sure that, you know, Ford and GM, right, they co-developed the 10-speed automatic transmission, but like in the Fords, it feels so much different than in the GM products. Like, especially in the Raptor, like the way that they've tuned this transmission, I want to highlight this just by going into, I'll pop into manual mode, and I'm in normal mode, so this isn't even the most aggressive transmission setting. Look at this. It's like instant. You guys will see, I'll show this in the off-road, or sorry, in the I showed this in the full review. Actually, got to press EM. I showed this in the full review with the AT4X. The paddles aren't really all that responsive, right? So it's weird, just the difference in transmission tuning. Oh, someone's in trouble. Someone is in trouble. We got another one coming. But while we are sitting here, I also want to talk about seat comfort with the Raptor. Seat comfort's definitely a lot better. I actually fit within the bolsters with the Raptor, and I just, even though I'm not getting a massage like in the AT4X, I feel more comfortable in these seats. So that is another plus with this truck. And so yeah, from a driving perspective, I mean, really comfortable. Now in terms of like just going down the road when you're not going over bumps and everything, this does feel slightly smoother compared to the AT4X. Yeah, the body controls a lot. You don't get that hop in the back end. That's the problem with leaf springs. Obviously, you benefit from having a better payload capacity, but the downside with leaf springs is the vehicle likes to hop, right? That is a little bit of a downside. Definitely do feel the size of the Raptor though. The AT4X, being a narrow body truck, feels quite a bit smaller, interestingly enough. This definitely, I feel like I have almost like better visibility over the hood, but like I can feel the width of this truck. Like it feels great going around corners because I feel like I'm gripping better, if that makes sense. But just like driving here in the lane, like I feel like I'm taking up so much space. Like this feels kind of just a lot bigger. So I guess before we hop into the TRX, and the TRX driving impressions, will have like my final thoughts and then us picking a winner and a loser from a driving perspective. Well, first, second, and third place, basically. With the Raptor, it's super comfortable, really refined. The Gen 2 Raptor was not refined like this new Gen 3 is. Again, it had leaf springs, and the interior on this is still not, you know, up to par with the GMC interior, and then you guys will see with the TRX interior. So there is that for sure with the Raptor. It doesn't have as luxurious of an interior. That being said though, the ride quality and everything definitely feels luxurious. I love how there's so many different customizations with the steering and the suspension, the exhaust, and it's on the fly too, so I don't have to like change the whole drive mode. I can just quickly change one facet. So I like that. And then fuel economy on this truck is the best out of the bunch. That 6.2 is pretty thirsty, and that you know, in both trucks, the 6.2 in both trucks is pretty thirsty. And real world fuel economy tests, the GMC doesn't seem to get quite as good as what you can get with the Raptor. And so yeah, definitely there, speaking of Gen 2, there's a Gen 2 right there. But yeah, definitely solid truck, and let's see what the TRX is like. Let's talk about visibility here in the TRX. Visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors, and throughout the rest of the rear. And this is equal in tech to the AT4X. So the Raptor obviously didn't have a heads-up display or the camera mirror, whereas this one has both. And I guess I need an oil change. Anyways, let's set off. So starting off here in the TRX, and I guess this is kind of like in between the two from a visibility standpoint, because the mirrors are higher up, and so like it feels like less open compared to like the Raptor on the side. But outside the front, it's actually pretty good in terms of like the visibility. Now it is raised in the center, which does get in the way a little bit, but the Raptor also has that vent piece in the center, which also gets in the way, so it's kind of equal. Now I have to pop this into Baja mode to adjust the suspension going over the train tracks. Again, we're gonna hold same speed with this truck as we did with the other two over the train tracks. Definitely can feel the weight with this compared to the Raptor. This feels, and the AT4X, this feels quite a bit heavier. See how it does with the train tracks? So, better than the AT4X, not as good as the Raptor going over the train tracks there. Definitely could hear quite a bit more. Like the Raptor, it didn't, like, it was like, what train tracks? The AT4X, it was like, the back end kind of did some stuff. And then the Raptor, or sorry, and then this is like, oh, there's something there. but yeah, it's kind of like in between. But again, this has 35s, so the larger tires in the Raptor definitely do help out because it's kind of like a added shock absorber. There's another Raptor. There's so many Gen 2 Raptors down here. There's actually quite a few TRXs down here too. But you know, just on smooth pavement, it's pretty good. We'll pop it into sport mode because this does have a sport mode, just like we did with the Raptor. Sorry, I had to cut it up because I got a red light, and so I had to wait for these people to get through. But what I was saying is, you guys are gonna notice here with the acceleration, yeah, it's pretty dang crazy. Pretty dang crazy. What I will say though is this definitely feels like it punches harder than the other two. But you know, from like 0 to 40, it feels like the TRX and the Raptor are not too far off from each other. But once you're past 40, I mean, good freaking luck catching up to this truck. And it sounds obviously the best. I do have an aftermarket exhaust, so we do got to take that into account. But yeah, the supercharger whine, all of that sounds amazing. But this does have a big deficit with that. You have the worst fuel economy with this truck and the worst fuel range. So with the Raptor, you can easily get like 500 miles on a tank. With the AT4X, I can't remember how big the fuel tank is, but you can usually get around 400 miles on a tank with that. This, 300 miles on a tank. So like, you get 100 miles as you go up with the trucks, I suppose. Now just on smooth pavement, this actually has the loudest tires out of the bunch. Interestingly enough, has the loudest tires out of the bunch. It's still very comfortable. The seat comfort in this is probably the best. Now, I do have 15,000 miles on this truck, and this does have leather seats, which have kind of conformed to my butt, so there is a little bit of butt bias with this. The Raptor you can get with leather seats, and those will conform to you as well. And so, you know, from a seat perspective, they're all a little bit different. But what I will say is these, you know, out of driving these all back to back, these ones do feel the most comfortable. But the Raptor definitely has the best bolstering on the side. I will say that. Going up this, yeah, the Raptor is definitely the smoothest out of the bunch. That is so interesting. I expected the Raptor and the TRX. I mean, obviously I've owned both of them for quite some time, but you know, it's rare that I drive them back to back to back like this, and so I expected the Raptor and the TRX to feel more similar to each other, and they just don't. Like, there's a big difference, and this feels gargantuan. Like, you feel the weight and the size. Like, I feel like I'm just hefting something around when I'm driving the TRX. The Raptor, not as much, and like I said, with the AT4X as well, not as much. This still has that like planted wide feel that the Raptor has as well, so you definitely do get that. Love the sound of it. And so yeah, let's sum things up. First off, and this is to try to sum things up fully with this whole comparison, you know, two-part series. So exterior wise, here's the deal. I love the front end of the new AT4X. Side profile I think looks pretty good actually. I'm not a huge fan of the squared off, you know, fender flares, but you know, that's a GMC thing, so you know, they can do whatever they want. But yeah, front side pretty good. Back end just looks like regular Sierra. Now the Raptor and the TRX, I keep going back and forth between which one I like the looks of more. I think the Gen 2 Raptor looks the best. I think the Gen 3 Raptor looks pretty good. Certain angles, not so much. The TRX looks good from pretty much every single angle. So the TRX probably, I guess, is the best looking. Now interior wise, the Raptor has the cheapest interior, right? The AT4X is just slightly below the TRX. Like, it's a very nice interior, very, very nice. I love how it looks, but this definitely still like has the most leather in the interior and everything, so this feels the most upscale. And then from a driving perspective, daily driving, we're not talking about off-roading. I'll talk about the off-roading stuff in the off-road review, like I've mentioned so many different times. But on-road, the AT4X does feel the slowest, the Raptor's in the middle, and the TRX is the fastest. The Raptor and the TRX will feel pretty close, you know, that 0 to 40 range feels pretty dang close between both of the trucks. And you know, frankly, you could tune the Raptor and then boom. But you know, aside from aftermarket stuff, ride quality, the TRX and the Raptor are pretty close on just smooth pavement, and so is the AT4X, frankly. They're all very, like on just regular smooth pavement, they're all very comfortable. Once you go over a bump though, Raptor handles it the best, TRX second best, AT4X, just to tell you guys how good the Raptor is, the AT4X feels closer to the TRX than it feels to the Raptor. Like, that's what we're dealing with here. Just to give you guys an idea. Seat comfort, this is the best. Raptor's in the middle. AT4X is probably the worst. And then if we go over pricing, the AT4X stickers for $76,000. This as a 22 model year, if you got a 22 with the same equipment that my truck has, $105,000. Raptor, $87,000. So the AT4X is obviously the least expensive. Now, does the Raptor drive $10,000 better on road? I'd say so, but the problem is you can't get a Raptor at MSRP because Ford doesn't build enough of them and dealers just price gouge the heck out of their customers. I'm not seeing that with GMC dealers, frankly. And so I'd have to say that, you know what, the average Raptor price, which is on the low side, $97,000 for that truck, but more realistically, $107,000. The AT4X is a much better value and the Raptor is not, you know, again, $10,000 more, I could see that because of the off-road stuff that you get with the Raptor and the looks and all that kind of stuff and the performance, yes. But at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than the AT4X, no way. Now the TRX on the other hand, it's kind of mixed. This truck feels like more of a toy than the other two. The AT4X feels like a regular truck. Like it feels like I'm just driving a truck. The Raptor feels like I'm driving like half toy, half truck. This feels like I'm just driving a toy. Like it's like this big heavy tank thing. So man, it's hard. And $105,000 roughly. So is this $30,000 more truck than the AT4X on road? I don't think so. It definitely has the fun factor, but like just daily driving, you're not going to be going full throttle all the time. You're just going to be, daily driving can be more about fuel economy and comfort. And the AT4X is not quite as comfortable as the TRX, but it's close enough that, I mean, shoot, if you really hated the seats in the AT4X, you can get different seats for far less than $30,000. I can tell you that right now. And so, yeah, I guess if I were to pick it, if we were talking MSRP to MSRP to MSRP, I would say that the Raptor wins. But if we're talking actual market value, I would say that the TRX and the AT4X are really close. If you want more of an experience, the TRX will give that to you. But if you're just looking for a good daily driver, you know, cool looking off-road truck, AT4X, and you're gonna save quite a bit of money. And then the Raptor is just it's the odd man out because of the dealer markups on it, frankly. It definitely just, it decreases the value on that truck, frankly, in terms of what you're getting for it. And it has the least amount of tech too. So yeah, sorry it's all, I know it's kind of all over the place. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know which one you would pick if it was your money. Not just you would pick because you think the truck's cool. If you had to spend either $76,000, again, Raptor values you're at $97,000 to $107,000. TRX, you're like, you know, depending on the dealership, you get it from 100, you know, just under 100,000 to just over 100,000. If it was your money that you were actually spending your hard-earned money, which one would you get?